There is one tiara I loathe above all others, and two that are my absolute favorites. And one of them, if it came up for auction again and I had $1,000,000, I would 1,000% purchase. And ironically, these are all aquamarine tiaras. And obviously, since we are in the month of March, March gemstone is aquamarine. So I thought it'd be a great time to bust out and talk about these three tiaras, which are all amazing and different. And yet at the same time, one of them I just see it and it just makes me cringe because it is so poorly designed. I don't know if they could fix it or not, but we will get there. But if you guys haven't been to Royal Fashion News, my name is Brittany, and today is Tiara Tuesday, and we talk about all things that glitter and sparkle today. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would be fantastic. I'd love to get to this channel to, I think, 50,000 subscribers really, really soon. So I would love to have you back. And so, like I said, we're going to be talking about three different tiaras today. And the first one is one of my absolute favorites. If you've been watching this channel or my main channel, Royal News Network, this is by far my favorite tiara, and I think the person who most frequently wears this tiara now is just absolutely perfectly paired with it. And that is the Swedish Aquamarine Kokoshnik Tiara. It has these 7 massive aquamarines that are gorgeous in color. And in particular, I think this tiara is very, very fitting to its most frequent wearer now, which is Princess Madeline. So she is the king's youngest child, and she has these bright, bright blue eyes that her sister and her brother do not share. And so in particular, I think because of her blue eyes and the blueness of the tiara, and especially in this official portrait here of her wearing it, it is just perfectly paired. She just looks unbelievably amazing in it. But other royal members of the family have worn it as well, and it is a stunning, stunning piece. And it has actually a bit of an interesting history, and I did do a whole video on this, so I'll go through some of these points really quickly. So if you want to learn more, check out that video up above. I will link it. And so originally this tiara belonged to Margaret of Connaught. And so she was the wife of Crown Prince Gustav Adolf, who ended up becoming king, but sadly she passed away before that happened. And in addition to the tiara itself, it has a coordinating aquamarine and diamond brooch. And the aquamarine in the brooch is also quite large and impressive. And so according to reports, and this is a conclusion from the Court Jeweler website, it could have been made by Coach, which is a German jeweler, because it matches some of their other pieces within that time period. And this particular tiara was inherited by Gustav Adolf and worn often by his wife, Princess Sibylla. And she wore it quite a bit after his death because he died actually quite young, and tragically her son and the eventual king was just a child. So he actually inherited the throne from his grandfather, not his father. And they together had 5 children, including 4 daughters and 1 son. And of course, at that time, the sons inherited first. So it was King now Carl Gustav who inherited the throne. But when it came to this particular tiara, it was inherited by her eldest daughter. So this was Princess Margareta. And for a long time, she wore this tiara quite frequently. And then about the late 90s, it suddenly disappeared for about 10 plus years. And when this happens, everybody always gets concerns because, of course, this tiara could have been sold. But as it turns out, it had not. So Princess Margareta actually lives in England and apparently the English countryside. So she's not in Sweden too often. So she decided to keep it in the Swedish royal vault and allow for other members of the family to borrow it. So the first one to borrow it was her sister, Princess Christina, in 2014. And it is now also most notably worn by Princess Madeline, and also Crown Princess Victoria has worn it. But I think particularly, like I said, Princess Madeline rocks this tiara. It just looks incredible on her. They've also added at times, utilizing a diamond necklace, added an additional diamond base to the tiara, which looks particularly amazing. Again, I think this tiara is just gorgeous. It's one of my absolute favorites. And I remember when I first saw this tiara, I was like, wow, where is this one from? I just love it. And just every time I see it, I just love it more. I think it's an incredible, incredible piece. Okay, so now we get to the middle one, which is the one that I loathe. And you could probably tell which one this is from the thumbnail, but we are going to talk about Britain's Brazilian Aquamarine Tiara. I hate this thing. I think this thing is so ugly. I know other people love it, and if you love it, that's fine. That's the great thing about fashion, is it is subjective. But in my personal opinion, I just don't particularly like this tiara. It's just the design is just not very good in my opinion. And this was designed by Her Majesty the Queen. And now, although I do love Queen Elizabeth, I don't think she particularly had the same great taste in jewelry as her grandmother, Queen Mary, did. So the Queen commissioned this in 1957 after she received a necklace and pair of earrings from Brazil. And they continued to give her pieces. And so she started off making a little tiara, and then she was able to grow the collection. And the original design of the tiara was worn in 1957, which was more of a bandeau. It had a lower setting. Honestly, then when I see the pictures, I still don't really particularly like it. And so as the Brazil kept giving her aquamarines, she just kept elevating everything. She also received a bracelet and brooch in 1958. And then on her first state visit to the country in 1968, she also received aquamarine and diamond hair ornaments. So again, I am not a fan of this tiara. I don't like the upgrades. I just think that aquamarines are almost overwhelming. Like, they're the most gorgeous blue color. The coloring and everything is marvelous. You can tell these are excellent quality gemstones. I just don't think it's particularly pretty. I just don't think it is. And I know other people like it. I'm so sorry. I just don't. And apparently it has scroll features, or maybe it's fan features. I'm not sure, but I don't know what to do to fix it, except for almost, you could say, to break up the gemstones, which you don't really want to do, but it feels like you need to break up the gemstones to kind of soften it, because it's just almost too much. And so this is one of the few times I'm like, if you could really take and like really, really redo this thing, I think that's what you need. Because honestly, right now, I just don't particularly like it. And so that is one of my absolute least favorite tiaras ever. And so guys, let me know what you think of this one down below. Do you like it or not? I would love to get your thoughts. And then before we move on to our other aquamarine tiara, which I don't think you will be aware of until the end, because I will not share a photo with you, but it is one of my favorites. However, I did want to get to one particular one really quickly, and that is the tiara belonging to Princess Madeline, because she also has another aquamarine tiara, believe it or not, and it has a rather colorful nickname, which is the Cyclops, because it is one grand large aquamarine and a couple of strands of diamonds. And so it is a very small tiara, and many thought it was like something new to her because it was gifted to her on her 18th birthday. But in fact, it was actually belonged to Queen Louise, the wife of her great-great-grandfather, Gustav VI Adolf. And so her aunt, Princess Desiree, has also worn it, and it is a interesting piece, and she has actually worn it somewhat recently across her forehead, and I actually sort of kind of like it. And I love the fact too that Princess Madeline and aquamarines, they just go together, guys. They just go together. So I actually think this one doesn't alienate me as much as others, but I'd love to get your thoughts. What do you think is better or worse, the Brazilian or the Cyclops? I would love to get your thoughts. I want to know. Okay, guys, so last tiara on this list, and it's one that went up for auction several years ago. I love it. If I had $1 million, if this channel did super well, maybe we'll do a GoFundMe at some point. Yeah, we'll try to grab this tiara, and we would have some sort of thing where we could all try it on for a period of time or something and like share it around. But you know, it would have to stay with somebody, and that person would have to be me. Just kidding. Anyways, and it's this Fabergé aquamarine and diamond tiara. This thing is exquisite. It is gorgeous. It is stunning. And it was made in the early 1900s. One report says from Christie's 1904. So this was actually auctioned off by Christie's and ended up going for about $300,000. So the tiara features 9 graduated pearl-shaped aquamarines and also old cushion and rose-cut diamonds. So this particular tiara was commissioned on the request of Frederick Francis IV, who was a Grand Duke of Mecklenburg-Schwerin, for his new wife, Princess Alexandra of Hanover and Cumberland. His mother was Grand Duchess Anastasia of Russia, not the most famous Grand Duchess Anastasia, a different one. And she was a keen collector of Fabergé, which is a very, very famous jewelry house in Russia. It's obviously famous for the Fabergé eggs. And so we do actually have some information. This was all from Christie's, basically. And so there were letters actually between Eugene Fabergé and the Grand Ducal Cabinet of Mecklenburg-Schwerin. And they were trying to design this particular tiara for the upcoming wedding. And so there were options that were sent out for the tiara, and they were told they could make a fully diamond one, which would cost 10,000 rubies, or an aquamarine diamond one, which would cost 7,500 rubies. But the tiara could not be all in aquamarine. So apparently at some point they wanted all aquamarines, or they just wanted diamond and aquamarines or diamonds. So this was kind of what they were discussing. And Fabergé apparently sent designs to the Grand Ducal House and then received absolutely nothing. absolutely nothing. And then they're trying to get back in touch. And then the Grand Ducal House is like, yeah, we need it in like 2 weeks. And Fabergé obviously said, no, that's not how this works. If you had called us a while ago, we would have done this, but you didn't, and so we can't. So apparently, there's not really a clear indication of exactly what happened here because there were a couple different options. They could give her something that was meant for her mother in law, or they could give her a mock up of a design and tell her she would receive the tiara later. We don't know exactly what happened, but she was recorded wearing this particular tiara about a month after her wedding. And according to reports, she was wearing a pink silk dress with a pearl necklace and featuring an aquamarine tiara. And so this tiara features forget-me-not flowers and Cupid's arrows. And I've got to say again, guys, one of my favorites. I love this tiara. I love the delicateness of it. You can see the craftsmanship, the amazing what Fabergé is obviously known for, which is very, very delicate work. And it's just utterly stunning. I don't feel like you see something particularly like this. And obviously, this is a very high quality picture. I'd love to see this particular tiara in person. And I will probably make a special trip to do so because it's currently being housed in the Houston Museum of Natural Science. So if you're interested in seeing this particular tiara in person, you definitely can. I believe it's $25 extra to look at their Fabergé exhibit. And they at least have one other tiara there, and that is the Lechtenberg Diamond Tiara, which is also quite famous and incredibly gorgeous. And actually, when it comes to tiaras, guys, there is a place where you actually can rent a tiara for a particular period of time, and that is Bentley and Skinner in the United Kingdom. I check out their website because I do love the look of the tiaras that they have, and there was one that I really liked that was aquamarine that even had matching earrings, and of course, when I come back to look it up again, it is gone, and I am so sad because I do think that is particularly gorgeous tiara as well. I do really love aquamarines. I love them in tiaras. I love Diana's ring. I've actually thought about getting myself a really, really nice aquamarine ring at some point. But when it comes to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth's Brazilian aquamarine tiara, it leaves a lot to be desired. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think is your favorite between the Kokoshnik and the Fabergé and the Cyclops and the Brazilian. I would love to get your guys' thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys again so soon. Bye.
We don't count the carats, we count the centuries.